Yeah, I work across the street from that and at the Navy
Now it's
Marine
being
Resource
recorded.
Center. And it gets pretty noisy when like B1s or
Oh, we lost him.
Where'd he go? He started talking about B1s and they canceled him.
Yeah. Yeah, he got
I just got Bon Air on 15.
oh man. I'm gonna be down there in August or July.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm thinking about taking my 7100 out of my truck and a wire antenna and see if I can let y'all know a time and a place and see if we can make some contacts from there. But I looked at several stations for rent down there, but I mean, they're nice. They've got, 14 antennas and 7 transmitters but they want like $1,400 a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even want, I'm not even doing a day of that,
Are you going to work or play?
Scuba dive. There's Paul back. We lost you there, Paul.
well, I got the little pop-up that said the meeting is now being live streamed. And so I just clicked the X thinking I'm clicking that window, but it turned out I was shutting down Zoom all the way. So
Yeah.
Go back out and come back in.
We thought maybe you were a spook and you just didn't want to be recorded, or something.
No, it was called brain lock.
But yeah, I'm going down there for 2 weeks to go scuba diving, and
Wow, 2 weeks of it, huh?
yeah, I've never been for 2 weeks. I've used to be we go for a week, and it's kind of interesting. It used to be you flew in on Saturday and you flew out on Saturday. There was one flight in, and I mean the plane flew in, unloaded, loaded, took off, came back. That was it.
Is that an island then in the Caribbean?
Yeah, just north of South America down there, south of Cuba. And,
ABCs, the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Curacao is way south, isn't it? Almost
Yeah,
off of Venezuela.
Not far up off of Venezuela.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they're only, I think Bonaire's only like 80 miles off of Venezuela. It's not very far, but there's really not a whole lot to do there except, I say that there's some good restaurants and a couple good restaurants and some beer, but basically it's a scuba island. That's why you go there. And
yeah, the other two are kind of resorty. I don't think Bonaire is very big.
They're scuba resorts, but there's not. I honestly, Bonaire, the whole island's about the size of Piedmont. Of course, Piedmont's bigger than it looks. If you look at it on the map and see the city limits, but it's really not a very big island, and really relaxing. Really, a lot of donkeys and great big lizards. Like great big lizards.
Wow. Big enough to take a bite out of you, it sounds like.
Yeah, they're pretty docile, but they will. There's one restaurant we eat at that there's this wall and the ocean's out there, and then there's a wall and then rocks and then the ocean, and the lizards will climb up on the wall, and they will come in and help themselves to your plate if you let them. They figured out they can climb up there and eat. So, but the donkeys are the interesting thing. The island is just overrun with I'm sure it's changed since we haven't been there now in 3 years, but just overrun with donkeys. And so they had this plan years ago. They were going to round up all the donkeys and put them on a ship and send them over to Curacao or somewhere. And Curacao got wind of it and said, "No, you're not." And so anyway, then they were, they wanted to kill a bunch of the donkeys. And of course, the animal rights people said, "No, we can't do that." So anyway, this woman started this donkey refuge area. Somebody gave her this big chunk of land out there. And so every year they have a donkey roundup, and they round up as many donkeys as they can. And take them there, and they neuter the males, and to kind of keep the population down. And you can go over there and drive through and we always drive through and feed the donkeys, any food scraps you got, they'll gladly eat. And but anyway, it's an interesting island. There's some great there's also a really, really beautiful little game reserve on the north end with some really good snorkeling. I mean, we're talking water 3 feet deep with just amazing fish. You just float around there.
Who goes with you?
Oh, this trip's going to be interesting. It's going to be the whole family is going to be down there. My wife's going, of course, and my son and our son and his wife and their 2 kids. And
Is your wife a scuba diver?
she's certified, but she's not as excited about it as I am. I'm not sure she's going to dive this trip. We haven't dove in 3 years, and we were discussing that the other day, and she was discussing whether she wanted to take a refresher course. And of course, there's all sorts of dive shops, dive resorts there, and you could take refresher courses. And I'm like, I don't need a refresher course. Just give me a tank and figure it out, But she may take a course. I don't know. She never has loved it as much as I have. First time I got out there, I mean, I was scared the first time I went in the ocean. I was like, what if I get swept out? But it's the training they give you if you take a good class is good. And I've had literally everything happen that they train you against. I mean, I've had my regulator kicked out of my mouth, my mask kicked off my face. I ran out of air during a dive one time, and I knew it was coming. It wasn't like I was down 100 feet and just ran out of air, but I knew it was coming, and I was just below the surface so I could get up. And the lower you get, the less air you have. Every time you go down 30 feet, the amount of air in your tank reduces by half. So the deeper you get, the less air you have, basically. And every time you take a breath, you're using a bigger percentage of it. So we were on this dive where couldn't just get out. We were swimming along this bluff, and you had to get down to this one place where there was a low rock where you could get out. So I didn't have any much choice. And so I just kept getting shallower and shallower as my air was getting down. And I got about 20 yards from that bluff and took a breath, and there was nothing left. So kicked real hard and popped up to the surface and popped my snorkel in my mouth and swam on. It was, but a little spooky. But
so do you plan out your own trip and rent a boat, or do you get a shop to guide you out to the good spots?
We one time we rented a boat when we were down there, and you've got Bonaire, and then there's actually this little island that sits off of Bonaire that's not got anything on it, but it's got a whole bunch of neat places to dive. And we went over there and dove off of some of those with the boat. But Bonaire has got like 300 dive sites on, where you just drive to them and walk out into the water.
Oh,
and it's got so many good dive sites. The worst problem to me in Bonaire is that the shore isn't sand, it's rocks. And so you've got this heavy tank, and the scuba gear is pretty heavy till you get in the water. And so you got this heavy tank on your back, and you're carrying your fins, and you're trying to walk on these rocks. And one time I fell down and I couldn't get back up. I mean, I couldn't get a footing to get back up, and our son was with us, and he reached over, snatched, gave me a boost and got me back on my feet. But getting into the water and getting out of the water sometimes is pretty tricky. And so, but then like it's God, what is the name? There's one of the dive resorts. They have I don't know what they've done, but basically it's just like a sand a sand beach and you just walk out and you just keep getting deeper. Every step you take, you're getting a little deeper and you just wade out until you're in the water.
Swim off. Huh?
Yep.
So has anybody been doing anything on sideband?
No, not much.
I haven't, no.
Not lately. I should be getting on the weekends when the different states have their contests and you get a bunch of contacts that way, but I seem to be busy on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I told somebody the other day, I do most of my sideband from my truck. Like when I take my wife to the doctor or to the, you know, get her hair cut or whatever, while I'm waiting for her, I sit out there and that's when I do most of my sideband stuff, except lately with gas this high, I've not been driving my truck. Been taking the Prius, you know, so I don't have HF.
What's your gallon gas cost now?
What are we at for 10%? We're for ethanol. We're at what, 4.25 ish, guys? I mean,
We just hit 520.
wow. You know, diesel dropped for a while below $5, and then I noticed today at every place I saw it's back up to 5.25. It shot back up 30 cents. And
I just filled up 1.5 vehicles yesterday, and it was close to $200 at $5.59.9.
Diesel or gas, Carl?
Gas, 91 octane.
Yeah.
Carl, you disappeared. You're stealthy on us.
Yeah.
So you got up and walked. Oh, yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Just listening in.
Yeah, if you cover up the camera, you can see the background, whatever picture that I put up in the background with not me in the middle of it.
Yeah, the only way I can tell is your clock never moves. Oh.
Yeah, it actually, that looks like it's really bright, but I'm in a dark room right now.
Well, the picture's really bright.
Yeah.
There he is. Got the correct time. 8 o'clock though.
So Paul, do you live in the area?
Yes, I'm playing with the settings on my Zoom here. I got this laptop just for radio stuff, so I'm kind of getting it set up for these meetings and stuff. Yeah, I live in the area. I'm southeast of Tinker, right in the shadow of the Twin Lakes radar site, or what do they call it sometimes, the Stella Doppler radar. So if you see that during the storm time, that's where we're at. So.
And that's why you can hear the AWACS going over.
We are on the downwind for the aircraft, yes. So sometimes if you're on the phone or on a meeting or something like this, all of a sudden you hear them, okay, hang on. We'll let everybody else talk, and then they go by. So, I work in aviation, so I don't mind airplanes. You just kind of part of the background noise, part of what you do.
What
do you do in aviation?
Well, started off wanting to be a pilot. Yeah, so I got a couple hundred hours of private time, but and I started in FAA and air traffic back in '89. I was down here at Mike Monroney Aero Center, going through the air traffic screen, and I was at the FAA for 14 plus years, and then jumped ship to the DoD. So I work for the Air Force now, across the street from Tinker. If you've ever seen the Army or the Navy and Marine Reserve building up on Douglas Boulevard, a couple of the artillery pieces up front, we're in that building in one half. So,
yeah.
So you're out of air traffic control?
Yes. Yeah. Don't miss that. So I just help keep flight publications up to date with the Air Force information in the flight pubs all the crews use.
Ooh, a dynamic and exciting job.
I aimed high, like the recruiting said, and that's what happened. No, Now, I'm kind of a mutant in my office. I'm one of the few people, that includes even secretaries. I have no military background. It was all civil aviation and FAA, but I had enough of a broad background that that's what they were looking for my position at that point. So I kind of snuck in and here I am. So
Cool.
I had,
I'll end my career out here in Oklahoma. I started out here, took me up to the Northeast, down to Andrews Air Force Base, and then out to here. So kind of odd. It's been a big full circle.
I had quite a compliment the other day. I was having breakfast with a full bird colonel, Air Force colonel, who'd been a wing commander and all this kind of stuff. And he's flown almost everything from like B-29s up and
Wow.
including F4s. And I mean, he's retired, but anyway, we were chatting and I mentioned that, my flying career ended after I soloed and I made a few solo flights and then just kind of lost interest. I guess, I did what I wanted to do. And he goes, so you're a pilot? I said, well, no, because I never got licensed. He goes, no, you took off by yourself. You flew around in the air. You landed. You're a pilot. And I thought, coming from this guy, I'll take that. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that was, this guy's got thousands of hours in different aircraft and says I'm a pilot. By God, I'm a pilot.
Yeah, if you've learned to do that, I work with a bunch of the pilots in our section. We have the advanced instrument school here, so that's why we have the pilots. But when one guy one of the pilots made a comment, so you wouldn't understand, you're not a pilot. Well, another guy knew that I had my license. Oh, wait a minute, Paul's a pilot. And so it's like all of a sudden, like you say, I've only got a couple 100 hours, but you've flown, you've controlled it by yourself there. You're part of the fraternity in one way or another. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it was
Kind of cool.
I guess I've never thought, since I never got the license, that I was really a pilot, but if he says so, I'll take it.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been in general aviation for a number of years. I got my private ticket when I was 17 and then didn't fly for several years very much while I was in college, but then had owned a series of partnerships, airplanes over the years, but haven't done anything in the last 15 or so. I've got about, probably close to 1,000 hours in instrument rating, but never got a commercial ticket, never needed it for anything. So I just never did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it would be really cool to be able to. In-laws were in Wichita, and we just jump in a plane and run up there, and and everything. And once I got into it, and I realized, without the instrument, especially, you could get there and maybe not come back for a week.
Well,
just never know.
Yeah. Even with the instrument rating, I mean, and flying a typical general aviation type aircraft, I mean, it's a little bit dicey because when I was flying anyway, there wasn't any radar that we had access to. I mean, now you can get radar on
Yeah, you can get it on your phone. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, they've got a little receiver that goes in your plane, and you can display it. If you have a glass cockpit, you can show it right on the screen, or if you don't, you can show it on a pad. Just something you can rubber band to the yoke, and have excellent radar. I mean, really better radar than they ever had when the radar was in the plane. Yeah. This radar comes from the ground, with multi-million watt transmitters. Same radar that they use at the the TV and the weather stations and all that. I mean, you can really get good radar, which is really nice, because one of the things with flying instruments in a general aviation aircraft was always flying into some sort of an embedded thunderstorm or something. Was always a concern of mine.
Yeah.
And then icing is another concern. But
Some of the glass
David,
cockpits.
I'm
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say something. You're talking about like the glass cockpit. Some of them now that I've seen on the trainers, your current Cessna 172s, for instance, just a training aircraft, their glass panels now would have looked, that would have been like the most advanced back in say 1983 when I
Yeah.
started flying, you know, and it's like that would have been like the 767s would have had that stuff. Now it's like, oh yeah, glass cockpit and everything all on the small aircraft now.
Yeah, yeah. My nephew is chief engineer for Garmin for their aviation products, and out in Oregon, and he's always telling me about their latest and greatest thing. They won an award for their Autoland feature. They've got where if it's installed in the aircraft and say the pilot slumps over dead and the wife doesn't know how to fly, all she has to be able to do is push a button. It finds the nearest appropriate airport and lands itself. Pretty amazing technology.
Gosh, and I won't even let my truck auto park itself. You know? Actually, mine doesn't have that feature, but I could have gotten it. It's
So Paul, what kind of ham radio are you into? Are you an FT8 guy or a sideband guy or?
Well, I'm kind of getting back into it. I started actually in February 2020, just before the regular meetings stopped for a while. I joined then. So was just getting back into it. Primarily, I want to get back into CW, sideband. I've got an Ellercraft set up station. I don't have it permanently set up at the house. I don't have any permanent antennas. That's a slow project. So I want to get that going. And when I did have it going with my little portable wire antenna, I was starting to learn some of the digital modes, the FT8, some of those. So I played around with it a little bit, but lacking a permanent antenna, I haven't done much. So I'm just slowly getting the equipment, get my good HF station, some VHF stuff, get some antennas up. There'll be nothing terribly exotic, but what's kind of I find interesting is that I got a free Kenwood TS520 a couple of years ago. I just happened to see an email where it said, first caller, first person to respond, and so I got it. That thing will sit next to my Ellercraft and some other things. I could put all those things in a box that's about the same size as the Kenwood, and they do 10 times as much. So it's amazing how much technology is advanced and how much they can put into a small radio. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'll do a little of the CW sideband HF. 6 years when I get an antenna for that, and then go from there.
Well, Carl and I both have hex beams that we really like. That's a excellent antenna for, not a horrible amount of money.
What kind of beam was that?
It's called a hex beam.
Oh, hex. Okay.
HEX, hex beam.
they also withstand ice fairly well, which is important around here.
That
What
is,
I hear anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm on 10 acres surrounded by trees, but with so many around the house with the way the sidewalks are and so many buried lines for electric, gas, and water, I really can't get out and bury anything anymore underground that's, to put something up. So I've got a way to do it off of the roof, at least get back on the air. But I wanted a small setup so we go out on a trip with the RV. Oh, I see a picture on Carl's. Is that the type you're talking about?
That's what ice does. That's a heavy load of ice on a hex beam.
Oh,
Yep.
But they come back, believe it or not.
really?
Yeah, the ice melts off and those things pop back up generally, so I've been told,
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
into position. Um,
Yeah.
But
There it is without.
they cover 5 bands from 10 through 20 meters
Okay.
and have about 5 dB forward gain. And everybody that I've talked to that has them loves them.
Really?
I'll have to say I've had what I consider to be really good luck with mine. And I think Carl would second that. I think he likes his real well.
Yeah, and we just had some really high winds out here the other day. It was 80 again, which is not unusual for the area where I am, 10-mile flat. And there's not really a windbreak or anything, depending on what direction the wind's coming from, for over a mile and a half. Not anything, not even a weed.
I've got a question for you. Have you had any problem with your 20-meter aluminum changing SWR a little bit? Mine, I've cut it twice to raise the resonant point a little bit to get it up more into the middle of the band. And something is happening because it keeps creeping back down. And I'm not sure if I have the wire too tight and the wire is actually stretching, which they say in the book in the manual that it will.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever experienced that?
No, not really. But from day one, I let the wires droop. There's about probably a 2-inch droop in the middle of each one of in between the spreaders. Because that was just something that I read, that it was better to leave them flexible.
Yeah, that may be my problem. I may have tried to get it a little too tight and it may be stretching the wire. The book that came from Dick's Engineering warned against that. They said it's better to leave them a little loose than try to get them too tight. So maybe I got mine too tight and I'm stretching that wire. That's the only explanation that I can think of, because now I've got to go cut on the thing again. And it's kind of a pain, but I can let the tower down and trim it without a lot of trouble. But I'd like to, I may loosen it up quite a bit this time. The other bands haven't changed resonant point. They've stayed okay, but that top wire takes, I guess, more of a beating than the shorter wires that are down lower. I'm sure the farther you get out on those fiberglass poles, the more they're moving around, and maybe would cause the wire, that 20-meter element, to stretch a little bit.
Yeah, especially if you're using it to support your the flex in your spreaders, and instead of using the Dacron cords.
No, I've got the cords that hook each of the spreaders to the center pole. So it's not supporting the fiberglass, except if the fiberglass moves around very much, I can see how it could possibly stretch that. When I trim it this time, I'm going to leave it looser, like you say, leave some droop in it and see if that helps, because I'm getting tired I've cut it twice now. I'm getting tired of laying it over and trimming it and trying to get it back up in it's not bad, but it by the time you get up to the top of the 20-meter band, it'll the SWR will it's right at 2-to-1 or maybe slightly over 2-to-1, and I'd rather get it down at least below 1.5. the tuner will, it doesn't take much to tune it out, but that's power that's being wasted. That's not, because you can tune it out, it doesn't radiate any more power. It's just wasted power.
Yeah, I noticed the other day after that 80-mile-an-hour wind that the it's got the little spacer between the reflector and the driven element, and the little cord that goes in there, and that had migrated around to where it was actually on one of all the wires had kind of twisted, and so that they were that cord was actually on one of the spreaders. And after that 80-mile-an-hour wind, everything shifted back around and got straight again to where it's actually the metal is back on the draped around all the spreaders.
So the wind fixed your antenna for you.
Yeah, it's straighter now than it was before.
Is that a picture of your actual antenna there, or is that?
Yeah, that one is. The one that was all twisted up was somebody else's picture, but mine did exactly the same thing. It could have been my picture a couple times, and after the ice melted off of it, it just, well, you can see what it looks like.
So this may be a silly question, but what is the directionality of that? Like the way we're looking at yours, Carl, which way is it transmitting?
Well, you can see there's an open section between the spreaders that doesn't have all the wires in it. And you can see two dark lines towards the, I'm going to say,
Kind of the upper right-hand corner of the screen.
yeah, the two, 1 o'clock position on the actual picture.
Okay, yeah, I see.
And that is, that's the direction that it's facing. It's a
Okay.
2-element. It's basically a 2-element beam.
Yeah, 2-element Yagi.
Yeah, actually, I just made your picture bigger. To me, there were 3 sections. I couldn't see any cross wires, but just the angle. But I see the one you're talking about there in the 1 o'clock position. So that's the way it's aimed.
Yeah, and those wires go back to the center post and connect to the center post, and that's where the feed line feeds into. It's like a well, it's multiple bands.
Yeah, that's a little different than mine. Those black cords on mine in the opening are the firing part of it, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. They go from the spreader to spreader on each of the bands. So I have more black cords going across there.
That's interesting. Is there just one on the top of all the rest of them?
There's one that goes from the end, the very end of the fiberglass each pole up to the center post. And then in that open area where there's no wires, there's a piece of the Dacron cord that goes across just as if it were a piece of wire. I mean, in the same position like it was a piece of wire. It goes, so there's 5 pieces across there.
Huh,
starting
that's-
from top
They
and work.
changed the design then, because you have a KIO also, don't you?
No, I've got it. I've got the DX Engineering. I tried to get a
Oh.
KIO, but the guy was, I called him and talked to him and he said, I don't have any fiberglass tubing. I don't know when I'm going to get any. And the only thing I can do is put you on a waiting list. So DX Engineering had them in stock, so I ordered one of theirs.
Okay, well, on mine, I've got a Dacron cord that's at the very tip of each one of the spreaders. And there's actually a Dacron cord that goes to the center, which holds it into the curve position. And then there's one that goes between each one of the spreaders that holds the separation between each one of the spreaders. So does yours use the wire itself on 20 meters to hold the separation on the spreaders?
Well, it's a good question. Yeah, I guess it sort of does. I mean, it's not tied, hard tied to the end of the spreader. It has a little clamp with a plastic bushing in it, and the wire goes through that plastic bushing such that it can slide back and forth through the little bushing. So it doesn't really hold it exactly in position. And all the elements are made the same way. They all go through those little plastic bushings on the spreaders and come back around. But yeah, yours is a little different. I can't tell, but is there a center pipe on yours that goes up all the way up to the height of the 20-meter element?
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of covered up there. I couldn't tell for sure. I guess it would have to have, because those have to have something to hook onto. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So are you getting a pretty low SWR across the bands on yours?
Yeah, it's typically 1.5 or less, and
With no tuning?
yeah,
With no-
just out of the box. Yeah, I didn't need to do any tuning to it. At least it was acceptable to me.
But I mean, not without using an antenna tuner?
Oh yeah, that's just straight antenna. I do have an antenna tuner hooked up, one that I can run my amplifier through, but I don't need it.
Well, that's the best way.
I do use it, it's in line, but most of the time, whenever I look at it, it's rare that it's above 1.4 to 1. And then when I hit the tuner, well, of course, it shows on the meter to be 1.0. So. Of course, that's kind of not exactly, because with the SWRs, not actually going to be 1.0 because it goes through coax and everything else. So, but it is going to be really low.
Do you have anything for 40 meters?
No. Oh, well, I've got another antenna. I've got a gap antenna. And actually I've got a 4-element Yagi, full size 4-element Yagi that's on the ground right now. I need to do some work on it, get it up in the air. But until I get my new building built, everything's on hold as far as antennas because they'll just be in the way.
Is that a wire antenna of some sort for 40
Oh,
meters?
the gap.
Yeah.
The gap it's a vertical, but it's kind of like a, well, it's got a whole bunch of it is vertical, and it's like a vertical dipole. It's got a split in the middle of it, and it feeds the antenna through a network that for each of the different bands. It's multi-band, and it feeds different parts of the antenna depending on what band that you're on. Oh, let me see. I might have a picture of it or a video. Nope, I don't.
Yeah, one thing yours has that mine doesn't have is that 6-meter element down low there.
Yeah, the problem with 6-meter is that it's horizontally oriented, and most people around here anyway use vertical 6-meter,
Okay,
like for the net and whatnot.
but they can still hear you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't put the 6-meter. They claim that the 6-meter elements didn't work too good on the X beams. But I don't know.
You know, they don't advertise it, but you can also run 2 meters and 440 on it.
Oh, really? On the 6-meter element?
Well, on the antenna.
Somewhere on the antenna.
Yeah, I don't. It's probably
Probably the
I
mast.
don't know where it's actually radiating from, which element, but it will work.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So is the little black box up there a balun of some sort?
It's actually not a box. It is it's a ugly it's coil of coax.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of an RF choke.
Yeah, it's a choke. Yeah, and so far it seems to be working pretty well. I got some clip-on whatever you call those things.
Ferrites.
Ferrites. Yeah, got some ferrite, and it actually came from KIO, but then I haven't lowered the antenna down to put it on. But that ugly choke seems to work pretty well.
Well, it works. That's what's important, not what it looks like.
Okay, that is the gap antenna.
in a windstorm.
No, just a breezy day in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all the time out here in 10 Mile Flat.
Who you hunting there, Sam?
Trying to figure out this whistle every time my radio transmits. And I also am noticing that when it transmits, my SWR meter isn't moving at all. It does when I do a tune, but it's not moving when I transmit on FT8. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Maybe that's why you're not getting heard.
That is my thought. Something going on here. Got my antenna turned on.
North Carolina, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee.
And the other thing I'm noticing here is like on WSJT-X, I've got a lot of stuff on the waterfall, but I've got nothing on the waterfall on my radio. Maybe I've got I think maybe I had the RF set too low.
North Carolina, Indiana, Kentucky.
Now there's a better picture of it, Bill, of that center post and how
Is that center post PVC or is that a piece of aluminum tubing or?
it's aluminum square tubing. It's about 1.5 inches square tubing, although there is a fiberglass spacer on the bottom of it that keeps it off of the bottom plate.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit different construction than the Dick's Engineering. I mean, basically, the same principle, but just implemented a little differently.
And that's a video of it blowing around in the wind also. It pretty much moves like that. All my antennas move like that all the time.
Wow.
And so after 5 years with it constantly moving like that, I haven't had to do one single thing to it.
Well, that's good. That says the guy does a pretty good job on them. Yeah, I can see the slack you're talking about as the elements blow. I can see the slop you've got in yours. I'm going to loosen mine up this time and see if I can't solve this problem.
Yeah, if you don't have them loose, all the stress is applied to it puts all the wires into tension, or at least the ones that are tight. So yeah, it appears to be better to have it be a couple inches of droop on each one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
And I get that droop, the adjustment, just by simply moving the little P clip that the wire runs through. that it slides through when it goes across each one of the spreaders.
Right.
It's anyway, just move those up and down on the spreader itself.
Right. Just slide them down a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess that makes a difference too, as far as your SWR, how close that it is, each one of them to the ones that are close to it.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of interaction between the elements or not. I'm not sure. You'd think there'd have to be some interaction, but I don't, not really. Yeah, you've got an extra Dacron cord from the top down to the center of the spreaders that mine doesn't have.
Yeah, those are the ice cords, and they support it when it gets covered with ice. Those are extra, but you have to have them in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I could put those on mine. I mean, they sent me an extra spool of Dacron cord, but I guess I could, next time I bring it down, I could put those on.
I sure would, because that's, otherwise your spreaders probably would get broke in the, when you get an inch buildup of ice around those things, it is heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus all the ice that the elements themselves collect.
Yeah, if they're loose, they don't collect quite as much because they're flexible and they move around, and the ice doesn't build up very much before it breaks off.
Good point. I probably need to loosen all mine a little bit.
And where the driven elements attached to the center post, it's got some nuts, acorn nuts that
Okay.
hold those in position. And I went over those with liquid tape, and I also used liquid tape on all the little junctions where there's where it's crimped, like the little spacer in between the two elements.
Right, where the wire ends are
Yeah.
crimped on.
Yeah, any place where it was crimped or there was a bare wire or something or other, well, I just put a little bit of liquid tape on it, and I don't know, it seems to, it's been up for 5 years now.
Earl, what kind of tower or whatever do you have yours on? Is it tilt up or?
It is on a it's a crank up and a tilt over.
I'm looking at towers. I want to put something up, but want to start planning.
But I got it real cheap. And so I went ahead and got it all fixed up, and yeah, it works okay. But what I discovered is that it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. That one goes up 55 feet. There's 3 sections, and they're 24-foot sections. And anyway, it goes up 55 feet. And so whenever you put the antenna on top of that, well, then that goes up another 5 or 6 feet. So you end up with a 60-foot to the top of your 20-meter, which is double, well, not quite double, what it needs to be for 20 meters. Anyway, it doesn't, point is that there's not that much difference between having it at 30 feet or having it at 60 feet. If the propagation that's coming in has more to do with it than anything else. And so if you've got propagation, say, coming in from Japan, I can raise that or lower it, and I'll get a slightly different signal on it, but it's mostly from the distance from the ground. Well, just the ground, the height above ground, that has more to do with it, and it changes the angle. What do you call it? Angle of attack, the angle of the signal.
Okay. Like the launch angle, is that what you're?
Yeah. What's the term for that?
I think launch angle, isn't it?
No, that's not it.
Takeoff angle.
Takeoff angle. That's it. Launch, takeoff. Hey, close.
Takeoff angle of the lowest lobe.
Yeah. And so anyway, yeah, that depending on the propagation, well, you can change the takeoff angle, and that's really the only difference that I believe that's how it works. And so, but there's not that much difference between 30 feet and 60 feet. So it's not even worth it, sticking it up in the air. And I don't want that up in the air 60 feet because there's no guy wires on it. And it'd probably rip it out of the ground within a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking I want something about 30 feet. What'd you end up going, Bill? What was your?
I've got a 40-foot of tower and about 10 foot, not quite 10 foot of mast. So I'm up about 50 feet, and the rotator is mounted down in the tower,
Right.
and the mast goes through the bushing at the top of the tower, and then up through and attaches to the antenna. And the antenna itself is about, that center pole, and the antenna is about, I guess that thing's at least 5 feet, isn't it, Carl? 5, 6 feet, something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Not 6,
I guess,
probably 4.5, 5 feet, something like that.
yeah, I would guess closer to 4 feet. Yeah. Sam, I've had many towers in the past, and the Oh, I'm so bad on names, and this is not a good night for names. The Roan Tower, that G20, it's rated freestanding for 35 feet.
Yeah, see, I've got to say, I really don't want guy wires. I mean, that's just, something else to mow around, or I mean, it's, if I can get away with freestanding, that's what I want, even if I have to get a little bigger tower to start with, a little more.
Well, you could come by and take a look at my universal tower.
I don't know, after all the talk you've given.
Yeah. Well, once I got squared away with it, I mean, it was I had trouble with the top section, the very top section, and they had a manufacturing problem.
Yeah.
And
It sounded like they stood behind it. I want to get that out there. I mean,
they did.
It's just
They did stand
frustrating.
behind
But
Sam, are you going to is it going to be layover?
yeah, I am not a climber. I'll climb any tower as long as I can keep 1 foot on the ground while I do it. So
I'm with you on that.
not going to find me up on a tower. So
That's why I went with the self-supporting tower that I could lay over.
yeah.
And then I assume that you're going to put some kind of a winch on it to winch it up.
Well, that'll use my tractor. I'm not really sure, how I figure that
Well,
out. But
okay, if you're going to use either one, I would suggest getting the attachment point for your cable up as high as you can. And if it's a winch, put you up a pole next to where the tower is that, however high you can get it up. That's a real stiff pole, like at least a Schedule 40 metal pipe, and Schedule 80 if possible. And if you can get it up like 15 or 20 feet, and then have your winch pulley be up at that point, it gets your angle of pull on that tower a lot better than like so many of the towers. They just use like a little 4-foot pole sticking up, and it literally puts thousands of pounds of pressure on that cable whenever you first start lifting it up. Whereas one that's 15 feet up in the air, well, it's hardly anything, hardly any tension on that cable.
Yeah, I went out to Ken's house and looked at his. He calls his a gin pole that's anchored into the concrete right next to his tower, and then the winch pulley, you might say, comes off of that.
Yeah, I sort of duplicated his. I did the same thing based on looking at what he had done there. I got a piece of oil field pipe, 4.5-inch oil field pipe, 1/4-inch wall, because you start calculating the load, the bending load on that pipe at the base.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. The 1/4-inch wall was probably a little more than I needed, and it's 4.5-inch in diameter, which is probably a little more than I needed, but that's what they had at the pipe yard.
Yeah.
That's what I bought. And
how long's yours?
it's 4 foot in the ground and about 16 foot above the ground.
So it was a 20-foot piece.
Yeah.
I've got a big chunk laying out here. A big chunk of pipe. It's not quite that long, but it's anyway, I've got, one of my neighbors put it out for big junk. I said, can I have that? I think it's only about 15 feet long, but I like to never got it home. But I like free.
Yeah, free's good.
Free is always good.
And something else you can do if you put a pipe up next to it like that is make a bracket that attaches to the tower, so that it holds it in position, and you've got some bracing, at least on the bottom half of the tower.
Yeah.
Instead of using guy wires.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, Ken's got like little, I don't know what to call them, like little V's that the antenna comes up into, kind of in there. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get around it. I've got this buddy down in Texas that makes these cell phone trailers. You see them around at sporting events after disasters, these trailers with these generators, and it's got a tilt up, crank up tower on them. And he keeps telling me he's gonna have one of those for me one of these days, the tower part, that off one that gets damaged or something like that he can get me real cheap, but he hadn't called me yet.
Well, I've got a top section of a Universal I'll give you.
Let's see. Trying to remember what it was. Something about the bushing that was welded on crooked. Is that
Yeah, the top bushing was welded on at an angle rather than being straight. So when you put the mast down through there, you couldn't align it with the rotor.
It missed the rotor. Yeah.
It was way off to one side. And then the second one they sent me was the same way. So I took photos of it and wrote a letter and said, you guys have got a problem. And they right away agreed and said, yeah, we had a new welder and he didn't know what he was doing.
Well, they probably just didn't explain exactly what the purpose was.
Yeah, probably. Some
How critical that could be.
Lack of training.
Yep. Everything's always a management problem.
Well,
So
that's true to some extent. Are those buzzards in your backyard?
It's a flock of turkeys. I think Carl's got some road runners down there. I've got wildlife galore here.
Well, you could have a turkey dinner whenever you wanted, huh?
I gotta buy myself a crossbow. Silent deadly killer. Yes, I could have just about anything. A raccoon tastes like, but
well, I've got a raccoon out here that says, I mean, it's almost as big as my wife. She's kind of small and it's kind of large, but oh my gosh, it's figured out how to get up to my bird feeder, and
oh, wow.
it's I defeated the squirrels, but the raccoons figured it out. So I'm just not feeding the birds right now. I need to go get they make this bird seed that's got capsaicin in it, from peppers.
Mm-hmm.
And the birds don't know the difference. They're not sensitive to it, but they say that you can discourage a squirrel or a raccoon pretty quick with that stuff.
Really?
So yeah.
So
Yeah,
a pepper spray, maybe just give your feeder a couple squirts. That might work.
Well, I'll tell you, the other thing that worked with the squirrels after a while, I've got a disc, and it's this big around disc upside down, welded under the pole. And that that pretty well stops the squirrels. But every so often, squirrels will figure that out. And I've seen the squirrel literally grab the edge of that disc and then do a backward somersault up on there. So I go out with little WD-40, spray the rim, and watch them. They'll grab it and slide right off. That's pretty funny. But I haven't figured out how the raccoon gets up there. I just look out there and there's this raccoon that's like, it's huge. I mean, this raccoon's probably this big around. and he's up there on top of that disc eating out of the bird feeder. And I
You need
can't
one
figure
of
out.
those game cameras.
Well, I've got one, but it not aimed right to catch that. But yeah, I've got a couple on the property here. I get some pretty shots. Now that's scary. Carl's
It's half as big as that bicycle wheel.
yeah, that's a big bug right there.
Well,
It'll-
fellows, I'm gonna call it a night. It's 9 o'clock. So I had fun listening.
Yeah, good. Always good to see you, Mike.
Got a couple North Dakotas, a couple Trinidads.
No, quit. I can't get anybody to talk to me. But
All right, well, you guys all take. Oh, there's the flying squirrel. right.
yeah,
Good night, y'all.
take care.
Yeah.
Good night, Mike.
Carl, you've always got a barrage of pictures. I never know what you're going to put up there. I really like that first one, but they're recording now. So,
Oh, well, yeah, but there's nothing.
no, there's nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Nothing about that picture that's obscene.
Oh, no.
No, actually, most guys would say it's rather attractive.
Yeah, didn't bother me.
if it wasn't obscene when it was first published, it sure isn't obscene now.
Well, it's pretty mild by today's standards.
Yeah.
Very mild.
Oh, me. I was trying to see if Ken was decided to go into the firehouse, but I don't see him there anywhere.
No, Daddy, he said that he doesn't drive at night anymore.
Mm.
So of course it's not night either.
No, when I go, when I do go down there, I mean, getting there is easy, not easy, but coming home in the dark, I don't like it near as much. Won't see near as well. And fortunately, by the time I come back, traffic's fairly thin. The traffic's on the way down. So
Yeah, you live kind of north and west, right? Northwest?
Yeah. Piedmont. Yeah.
Piedmont, okay. Yeah, you got a pretty good drive.
Yeah, it takes me about 42 minutes to get home when there's no traffic. And Ken Sandberg taught me I can leave. I used to leave like at 4 o'clock to get there by 6:30. I mean, to get down there because of the traffic, and I can actually leave here at 6, and yeah, I may get there at 6:45. It's the difference in the traffic is that drastic. Just waiting, So, but I also don't. I've gotten to where I don't. When I do go down, I don't go the interstates. I'll go down Penn and then I'll cut over on 63rd. Then I'll go, and I just kind of zig and zag. And if I look up in front of me and there's a lot of traffic, I turn. Just keep, as long as I'm going south and east. Zig my way down there.
Yeah, my wife kind of goes back roads when she has to go to Oklahoma City. She didn't like to drive on the interstates if she didn't have to. She will, but she didn't like it.
Yeah, my wife either. She it's well, and there's construction every which way you go. I mean, it's like there's just no way to get anywhere without having to go through some construction on the interstates.
Oh,
Down
by the way,
there.
I looked at the map of that proposed turnpike extension that you were telling me about last week.
Yeah.
And do you live close to the road, it's not Franklin, but Indian Hill? Do you live on Indian Hill Road or?
Oh no, I'm way up here in the northwest. Talking to me, I'm up
Oh
way
yeah,
up in the
yeah,
northwest
yeah.
corner.
Wasn't
Yeah.
you? Who was it that was complaining about it? They were going to be part of an interchange. Somebody.
Yeah, there's some club member that supposedly it's going right through his living room. I heard the other day that
Well,
he's real upset.
somebody on Zoom last week was when we were talking about it, where it was going, who was explaining it. Who was that?
I don't remember. I was on here I was here. Did I Zoom? I can't remember.
I don't remember who it was either. It was somebody that was complaining pretty bitterly about the routing of the thing.
Yeah, it's, there's some concern. I don't know if you ever heard of Wild Things, I think it is. There's a animal rescue down there by Norman that lady named Rondi Large started many, many years ago, and she's retired from it now, but they rescue eagles and just any critters that come. They have vets, and anyway, it's going right by their place. I mean, I think it's not going to take any of their land, but they're concerned that it's going to be so close
Noisy.
to that it'll hurt their animal rescue. And anyway, but yeah, I don't know. I'm hot and cold on it. I mean, part of me says I like the pay to play thing. If you want to get there quick, you pay, and doesn't come out of our tax dollars, our other money. And on the other hand, I hate the fact that I don't know that we need that, and of course a lot of people in Norman, I understand, are upset because they think it's gonna bypass a lot of traffic around Norman.
Well, that suits me just fine. And I live in Norman. That's great.
Well, business owners in particular don't like that, but
Well,
you know,
there's a lot more citizens than there are business owners. And I tell you, the traffic in Norman is getting as bad as Oklahoma City. Norman has grown and grown and grown, and it just continues to grow. And huge apartment complexes. I mean, you just can't believe the number of apartment complexes they've built down here.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are 3-story high complexes. The problem that I can't understand is where they think the water's going to come from. I heard on the news today that they're talking about after they treat the wastewater to pump it back into Thunderbird.
Well, the thing that gets me on water in Oklahoma City's, they have odd and even watering and all this water conservation stuff, but they keep letting people build these big car washes. I mean, they're putting in these big fancy car washes every couple miles. They're almost like Walgreens and CVS anymore. And so I don't know if we're really, that worried about water, why are we letting people do all this car washing?
I wish they'd put a building moratorium on Norman. Just quit issuing building permits.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen, but that would, if it were up to me, that would happen. I don't think we need especially all the apartment complexes, man.
Yeah, I've noticed that Norman zoning has made some really bad decisions here in the last 5 years or so. And one of those is allowing all the apartment complexes on the northwest side of Norman. And they went from virtually no crime to now it's, a bunch of stuff every single day. And I don't know for sure that it's the apartment complexes that are drawing in that crowd of people. And of course, when they were brand new, it wasn't so bad, but now that they're getting older, well then, yeah, it's they don't have the same type of people that's in there.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Well, even subdivisions,
they turn into
that.
slums.
Even subdivisions do that. They kind of have this attrition as they go through, but I think it doesn't happen as fast with a subdivision as it does with an apartment complex.
No,
it also
I agree.
depends on whether they're Title IX or whatever that is, where, low income can go in there. I mean,
yeah.
Francis Tuttle up there where I worked for all those years, right next to Francis Tuttle, practically they built this big I can't remember what it is, Title IX or whatever. We used to hear gunshots, and we're right out by Mercy Hospital, and there'd be gunshots over in that, but it has to do with who they rent to.
Yeah.
Section 8.
Yeah, whatever. I knew it was something number, but yeah.
Yeah, my houses in the northwest side of Oklahoma City, they had a bunch of Section 8. Government bought a bunch of those. Well, I say bought. They had the people that own the houses rent them to the government and therefore to the lower income people. And that was just such a scam. And then every one of the apartment complexes on the northwest side of town there off of 10th Street, it was terrible. You had a certain group of people that were doing bad stuff and in trouble all the time, and it spread to the neighborhoods. And then the back at that time, they called it white flight, and the crime rate went up, and every week there was gunfire. It got so bad at one time that I could pick out, just listening to the gunfire, pick out what kind of gun that they were using.
Good grief.
From the sound of it. It was a several times a week thing.
Yep.
And they scammed the government. It was terrible. They'd move people in. Those people would tear up the house. I mean, just completely destroy it. And the government had contractors that would come in and, first off, they would tell the people, hey, you've destroyed this house. You can't live here anymore. We're going to have to move you out. And so every 3 to 6 months, they would move these people out to a new house. And then the contractors that were in cahoots with the people that were in charge of Section 8 housing would come in, brothers and cousins and whatnot would come in there and fix up these houses and charge the government, of course, you and I, these outrageous amounts to fix these houses back up. And then it was just a cycle. They just moved these every 6 months or so. They just moved these people to new houses, and it was just a scam.
Well, and from a school side of it, the other thing that happened, we ran into it at Francis Tuttle, is that every time these families were moving, they were moving their kids. So their kids had no continuity of education. They were jumping them from one school system to another. Even within say Putnam City School District, they'd be moving them from one elementary school to another, and we, so what does that do for the kids? They don't have any continuity of teachers or any of that stuff.
Well, there's a Ken. Ken, we'd given up on you.
Hey guys,
Oh my gosh, he's alive.
yeah, I'm still kicking.
We were worried about you, Ken. I was afraid you'd climb that tower again and fallen to your death or something.
I was afraid, just hanging up there, got his leg hung, and he was waiting for somebody to find him.
It could happen. So how you guys doing tonight?
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Hey, there was a digital contest over the weekend. It was 30 hours long, but you was only supposed to operate 24 hours out of that. And I operated 8 hours. I operated longer than that, but I only claimed 8 hours. And I made 240 some contacts in the 8 hour period. Actually, total was 340 contacts, but they're only going to count the ones I made in that 8 hour period. But out of that 200 and some, there was about 60 of them were DX stations all over Europe. So, man, if a guy's trying to work DXCC, that'd be the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, were any of those from Asia or mainly Europe?
No, there was Asia. I worked Japan and I worked Indonesia and one station in China. I've worked all over.
I'm still not hearing anything out of the Far East. I mean, I'm working European stations easy. I mean, it's, you know, just listen around a little bit
Yeah.
and wait.
But there's a lot of Europeans on the air, and it, you know, they're fun to work. There's a lot of countries over there to work, so you can rack them up pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I picked up some more countries this past week. Picked up Luxembourg.
Good.
Tiny
Yeah.
little country. And Bulgaria. I've got about, I think I'm approaching maybe 30 countries now, but most of them European.
You're coming along pretty fast. Is that logging program working super?
Yeah, I need to upload again. I haven't uploaded to
The logbook of the world.
Logbook of the World recently.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and try to remember how to do that.
Yeah. Well, you just go to the EQSL button up there and pick Logbook of the World and click that button that says upload the ones that have not been uploaded.
Yeah, it's e-logs.
E-logs.
E-logs is, and then LOTW. And then,
Yeah. I don't have the program up, so.
yeah, see, I've got mine set where it auto logs every time I make a contact.
I don't
I've
do
heard
that.
that's not a good thing, but
I don't do
you know.
that, but a lot of people do, and you know, it's okay.
So I'm trying to narrow down why I've got this, what this tone is that I keep getting every time I transmit, but it's only when I transmit from the computer.
If you seems like they update that country file pretty often. Have you noticed that, Sam?
Yeah, seems like every couple days. But,
Just powered it up.
I don't know why.
Whenever you're talking about the tone, is that whenever when it keys up in WSJTX,
Yeah,
it does a tone?
yeah.
Does
I get this.
it do it if you hit the tune button?
No. Or wait a minute. Yes, it does it if I hit the tune button on WSJT, but it doesn't if I hit the tune button on my radio.
Yeah.
I can hear it, Sam, and it sounds like it's feedback from a speaker or a mic.
I haven't heard it. So
Well, I've
Yeah.
been here. I'll
can people hear it on the air?
Did you hear that?
No, but every once in a while I do hear it.
Yeah, I'm not transmitting right now. I've been letting it
Yep.
go, but you know, I've just been narrowing it down. I mean, it's like I can actually got off, went to another frequency and keyed my microphone. Nothing. I can
Well-
do tuner or the transmit button on my radio. No tone. It's only when it comes from WSJT.
Carl's probably right, some kind of feedback, but man,
Yeah, I
I've
don't-
never experienced that. But
Do you have anything that's close to like your coax or the RF for in your radio that
See, you know, it seems to me if that was doing it, that it would do it anytime I transmit with my microphone or anything else. But
well,
it's not.
is the sound going out over the air?
I don't know.
Well, in your Windows setup, there's a place in there you can mute all sounds.
Which
I would do that.
I've actually done that right now to see if that was it. Like I'm not hearing the little announcements, you know, when a new state comes
Yeah.
up or whatever.
No, I'm not talking
I've got
about that. I'm
I've got
talking
the
about
computer
Windows
mounted.
program.
I've
No.
got the computer sound muted.
Okay.
Are you running the same output power on FT8 as you are all the rest of the time?
Well, I'm pretty much leave it on 100. I'm not sure where I set that in FTA or in WS. The radio's set to 100 watts.
You might try just a test, try turning the power down.
Yeah, I did that a while ago. Didn't change it at all. Let me do it again though. Run it down to, yeah, let's just run it down to like 10. See what happens.
But it only happens when you transmit, right?
Yep. And that didn't change it at all going down to, on
It
the
doesn't
radio
mean-
going down to 10 watts.
It does it when you first key up.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What about what happens if I do that? Let's try something here. Yeah, changing the mic gain didn't change anything. Changing the monitor didn't change anything. Yeah, see, I can't decide if it's something with the radio or something in WSJT that I've got.
Well, if it's not doing it when you hit the tune button on the radio, I would say it's in the, not necessarily the WSJTX program, but that or the Windows program. See, it's going through the Windows sound card. So how about your ALC? Are you not overdriving the, whenever you key the program to transmit, are you overdriving the transceiver, putting too much audio into it?
Well, that's possible.
Check your ALC.
So where is that?
That would be my first thing, that what Ken just said, that would be the first thing I would look at.
Now, can
So,
somebody
Bill,
tell me where to look at that?
Bill, what band are you working at DX on? 20 meters?
20 and 17, mainly 20, but I'll drop down to 17 if,
In the evening, point your antenna toward 320 degrees. You should be able to work some
I'll bet you that's it.
or
Malaysia and Indonesia
what time of the evening?
this time of the evening.
Okay,
Yeah.
so around 8:30 or so.
Yeah, the other day, whenever over the weekend, I guess it was Saturday, whenever I was doing that contest, I was working DX stations on 20 meters until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow,
And it was still open when I quit.
wow.
And I can't believe I stayed up that late. And I wouldn't have had to, because I didn't claim all of that time in the contest. Their increment was you could claim 8 hours or 24 hours. I would have liked to have been able to do just 10 hours, and that's what I did. So I lost a lot of contacts by losing that last 2 hours, because most of those were DX. In this contest, not only do you get 1 point for every station that you work, but you get mileage. You get another point for every 500 kilometers. And those last ones, the last couple of hours, was a bunch of Europeans, which would have added a whole lot more score to my count. As it was, it's 1,500 and something points, which is some of them big guns probably have 15,000 points in this contest.
Well, yeah, but they've got multiple operators and
Yeah,
250-foot tall
yeah. But this
towers.
this contest is trying to make it more on a level playing ground by the people that are multiple stations are in a different category than a single operator, single transmitter.
Oh, okay. Well, that
So-
makes sense. I
So,
mean,
so I'm only competing with single operator, single transmitter people. And, and power wise, there's only two power ranges, and that's QRP, 5 watts or less. And then low power, which is 100 watts. No big guns are supposed to be in it. Although I could tell some people were using amplifiers because the red line on the screen was about ½ inch wide. And you know that's not 100 watts.
not 100 watts.
But it was fun. It was fast and furious. And I started out using FT8, and then I switched to FT4, which is half the time. So I was making twice as many contacts. So the first 3 or 4 hours, I could have been making more contacts if I started out on FT4. So I made all kinds of mistakes. I might do better next year if I don't fall off the tower between now and then.
Stay off that tower, Ken.
It was a blast. You guys are gonna have to try it next year. And there's a field day coming up, and there's a VHF contest coming up. I might try to work some 6 meters, maybe some 2 meters on that.
Okay, can anybody tell me on the 7300 where to find the ALC setting?
I don't have a 7300.
Carl, you've got one, don't you?
Yeah, I'll look.
See if you can. 'Cause
He shut us down. He gave us the old black screen.
Close the window.
Yeah, when I turn the radio on, I'm not sure what all is going to come on over here.
Hey, I've been going through QSL cards today. I'm going through QSL cards. I'm trying to find countries that I worked before Logbook of the World came along. And I'm finding a lot of them that I'm going to be able to. I have to find a card checker to be able to use them. But man, I'm finding all kinds of interesting cards.
One of the most interesting to me was the King of Jordan.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. This
Yeah,
is
very cool.
that's
Very cool.
that's Mongolia.
Okay. That's an unusual one.
Really, I got a lot of really neat cards, but and you know, cards are more personal.
and you said
A lot of them would write letters and send the card in an envelope,
connectors.
or write stuff on the back of the card. They do all kinds of personal things. You don't get that with Logbook of the World. Well, here's another one. How about that card?
Oh, you looking at this, Carl?
I like that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's Bosnia. And then here's another one. I like that.
That must be Brazil.
No,
Martinique.
it's Martinique. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that. The guy that painted them butts, you paint that one, and then that girl's got to wait around till you paint the other two before they take the picture. And that's outdoors on the beach. Man, we should have our expeditions in Martinique.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of neat islands and stuff. This is Johnson Atoll. And that place is not much more than a runway. See the runway there?
Yep. So where's that located?
That's off the coast. It's It's kind of west of Hawaii,
West of Hawaii. Huh?
west of Hawaii. Yeah.
Wow. That is out in the middle of the ocean.
It's a matter of fact, it's probably 1,500 to 2,000 miles west of Hawaii.
Whoa. Is that a U.S. Air Force base?
Yeah. Well, it's a government place, but you can't go there. I landed there one time whenever I was going back and forth from Hawaii to Guam. There in Kwajalein and Wake Island, I've been to all of those.
Interesting.
But anyway, I found about 30 cards that are not on Logbook of the World. So I can add 30 more countries to I've got 267 now. So I can add 30 more to that. And I'm still looking. I still got boxes to go through.
What do you collect? What are you using the cards for? For what award?
Well, there's I'm trying to get all of the countries, which is about 320. That puts you on the honor roll.
Wow. So worked all countries. Huh?
Yeah.
That should put you on an honor roll.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So I'll have about 300, I think, once I get all these things checked and on the internet, on Logbook of the World. But man, it's getting harder to get countries that I haven't worked before. In this contest, all of those countries that I worked, there was not a single one that I needed for country that I hadn't worked.
I guess you've got boxes and boxes of those QSL
Yeah,
cards to go
I
through.
do
Right?
have, and I've been going through them boxes and checking the each card against my logging program to see if I've got that country or not. So I've been weeding them out. I did that pretty much all day today. Get tired of it.
I've got two. Actually, I've got three. Two are from the same guy. I guess he forgot he sent me one.
You
Sent
got
me a
one
second.
from me.
Yeah, you're the second one.
Well,
The
I've
guy
got
in Hawaii
one.
sent me two.
Oh, he forgot he sent you one.
Well, I guess he sent me one, so I turned around and sent him one,
Then
and
he
then
sent you
he
another
sent me another one. So anyway, either that or he's very proud of his, and I don't blame him. He's very proud of his.
Oh, you can't believe the cards and stuff that I used to get. And there's a lot of hams that would send me stamps, unused stamp, because I guess they were stamp collectors. So they would send me a whole bunch of stamps in an envelope. In Japan, they have a lot of colorful cards. Let's see if I can find this. There's a couple of them right here that puts, oh, here's one. See, they stuck them stamps to the back of the QSL card.
Mm-hmm.
They're stamps from their island. This one's got 4 stamps. So they're just stuck on there. They're not, I mean, they're the edge of them is stuck on there, so they're not used, and they're not canceled or anything.
That must have come in an envelope. That would
Yeah,
have
it
never
came in
made
an
it.
envelope, and sometimes I get just a bunch of them in there. I can't remember who it was. One of the islands off of Japan. That guy was really into that. He wanted me to send him some, and he sent me about 20 times more than I sent him. Anyway, keeps me busy. Antenna and everything's working, Bill?
Yeah, I swept that 20 element beam again, the 20 meter element on my hex beam again,
Yeah,
and it has drifted down again to where the resonant point is right at the very bottom of the band.
you think the moisture is what's done it?
No, I think the wire is stretching. I think I was talking to
Mhm.
Carl about that, and he's got more slack in his wires than I do.
Yeah.
And they warned against that in the assembly manual. Don't get them too tight. Leave a little slack. And I thought I left a little slack, but I must have it too tight, and it must be the wind, I think, blowing that thing around stretches that top wire enough that it moves the resonant point down. But I'm gonna have to lower it and cut it again. And this time I'm going to leave a little extra slack in it, so maybe I can stop that. It's, you know,
And then again, it may only stretch so far and quit stretching, so.
yeah, to do that, it would have to kind of work harden the copper, and then it'll get brittle and break probably. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I need to lower it and do some work on it.
So what's the SWR?
It's right at 2-to-1 on the upper edge of the band.
Well, you don't operate the upper edge of the band though, do you?
Well, yeah, the phone band goes up to 350, and by the time I get up to 14,350, it's right at 2-to-1 or maybe slightly over 2-to-1. You know, which is, it's usable. I mean, but I'd rather have it resonant,
Yeah.
not waste power.
Oh, my daughter-in-law, Andrea, we applied for her a different call, and she got a really good one, W5GRL, W5 girl.
Oh, really?
And we just got it today, and we don't know what all we're going to have to do. I guess none of you guys have done that. None of you guys has upgraded, have you?
Well, I did. I mean, I went to a vanity call, but
Well, what did you have to redo? QRZ and Logbook of the World and all of that?
Yep.
So on Logbook of the World, did you have to do another, download another TQSL?
Yes, I did. I mean, it's been a while now, but yes,
Well, yeah,
I
but that doesn't matter with a steel trap memory like yours.
yeah, it does anymore. I was trying to think, and you got to go in, and when you do it, you got to tell them that was me and this is now me. You know,
you mean on QRZ or on Logbook?
Logbook of the World. Yeah, QRZ. I think it picks it up automatically at a certain point.
I ran across one the other day where the guy had changed the call, and I was looking at it on QRZ, and it gave a reference to his previous call and said he had changed and it was now.
Well, I had a experimental call sign whenever I worked 630 meters and 2200 meters before the band was open for amateurs, and I had to get a hold to the manager or assistant or something at QRZ And he put both call signs up there and linked them together.
Oh,
And so if someone typed in my experimental call sign, it would bring up both of them. So, I mean, it would indicate that I had two call signs. And
see mine on QRZ, if you type in my old call sign, it
mhm.
comes up as my new call sign.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, and
links
does
it
it have a little
automatically.
note in there saying previous call was or something?
yeah.
I heard that your old call after a year, which it's been over a year for me, after a year, that call sign could get reissued.
Yeah.
2 years,
Is it, 2 years?
2
Okay.
years.
So, so
I
I was
had one
thinking
that-
maybe,
Well, I was thinking that if your call sign expired, that you could renew it within 1 year.
yeah, I think that's true too. If you let your license lapse, you can.
So, so I knew they held it for at least 1 year before they would
I
reissue.
think they held them for 2. Because I was looking into, I had seen one that K5WEB, which is my initials.
Mhm.
And I thought, man, I'd sure like to get that.
Yeah.
But the guy had just dropped it or passed away or something. I'm not sure what, but I found out that I wouldn't be eligible to apply for it for 2 years.
Well, and, that seems like that'd be a different case. If he passed away,
Well, I'm not.
no way
I'm
he
not-
could come back and.
No, but a lot of times a son or, there've been a
Yeah.
number of cases where a son or a
Right.
grandson wanted
Yeah.
their,
Mhm.
that call.
Yeah.
It could be that he just let it expire. I'm not really sure what the case was, but I wasn't eligible to get it for
Yeah.
2 years. Where do you find a list of eligible call signs? Do you know?
I think we found it on QRZ.com. There was a link up at the top that we went to. But this guy that does vanity calls, he had the list there, and it's got. So we went through the list, and you pays your money, and so you have to pick more than one, because if you just pick one and you don't get it, you lose your money and you don't get the call. So she picked 3 calls, and this W5GRL was first choice, and her second choice was W5 her initials, and then the third choice was W5 OKC. And she was lucky enough to get that first call. That was the only one I liked of the bunch, because W5GRL is a good CW call. I don't know if she'll ever do CW or not, but anyway, for a girl, it's pretty easy to remember her call sign.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really milled around with mine, whether I want to do my initials or what, but
Yeah.
I kind of like the way Sierra Alpha Mike rolls off my tongue.
Yeah, I do too. I
And
think
it's also pretty easy in Morse if I do CW. And anyway, I had all these different things that I was thinking about. And
Well,
my biggest thing is I wish I could have gotten just K5 SAM instead of KI5, but it was already taken. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like mine. I don't like
Well,
the RMQ.
go get a vanity call. Do it now.
Well, I'm going to. I just
And that's why I was asking, and I told her that she needs to go ahead and get it before she gets thousands of contacts. She's got a lot now, and I don't know. Do you lose your logbook of the world contacts, Sam?
No, they ended up carrying over. I mean, but I had to, it seemed like, gosh, actually the hardest one I had was my, to get transferred over was my DMR ID, getting them to transfer me over.
your what? I'm sorry.
Digital radio.
Oh, DMR. Yeah.
DMR.
Oh, DMR.
Yeah,
okay.
that was like the hardest one to move.
I don't have to worry about that.
I had to, well, I don't know, it's just one of those things I had that I signed up for, and I wanted to get everything changed over, but
Yeah, I
but I
understand.
ended up having to send an email to an admin and go through some stuff. And
Yeah.
once I talked to the right person, it got fixed. But what in the world?
Did you ever find the ALC?
No, and I'll tell you what, these radio have so many menus. I'm looking for. I found this guy actually published all his settings, both in WSJT and on the ICOM 7300. And anyway, I saw one a while ago called AGC, and mine was set on slow, and he sets his on fast. So I thought I'd go find that.
That won't make any difference, but you can do
Probably
that.
not. I'm just trying to.
That's not the problem, but I've had mine set on AGC on slow, medium, and fast. I can't tell much difference. I don't even know where it's set now. Probably set on fast.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going down his list, trying to get everything
Did
set
you
the
set-
same
did
way
you-
he is.
When you first started, did you set up the ALC?
I don't remember.
Would be a good thing to check then.
I don't even know where it is. I mean, I cannot find it.
Well, I bet Carl's found it for you.
Well, I know where ALC is, but I sure cannot remember how to adjust it. On your meters, like right underneath your frequency that shows up on the main screen.
Right.
Well, you've got all your adjustments there to where you can look at the temperature and the RF output and compression and all that. You just touch the middle of the screen and the menu will eventually pop up for ALC.
Okay. Let's see what happens.
Is there a slider for ALC to adjust it?
Yeah, there is a slider, and mine's set on, I guess, 50%. It's the same as S9 on all the other meters, which I
Well,
think
on the digital mode, whenever you start transmitting, you can see there's a scale down there where the S meter is. And whenever you start transmitting, the scale for the ALC should just barely move. I mean, just barely be able to see it move off of 0. And if it goes up higher than that, you're overdriving the input of your transceiver. And I'm getting that from my ICOM that's not the same as yours, but I think mine's a 9700. I don't even see it on the front of it, but it's the 270 centimeter and 1296 one, but I'm pretty sure the ALC is the same as far as setting it up. I don't know where, I don't remember. I don't have mine turned on, so I can't go through the menu and look for it.
Did you find it, Sam?
No. No. Trying to.
It's all of these new transceivers got 14 layers deep of menu
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Now I see ALC on here. Had to click on it several times to get it over to ALC.
Yeah, it goes.
When I transmit, it's showing nothing. I mean, it's the ALC bar is going, or the S, it's got S and ALC, and it goes to nothing,
Well,
which you sound like was good.
you don't have to be in any menu to see the ALC whenever you transmit.
Right. Well, it's interesting. When I show the ALC bar, there's a bar for ALC, and at the bottom of it, there's a red line that goes about halfway across.
Well, I think that's wrong. I don't think it's supposed to even come off of just barely off the
I mean,
bottom of the scale.
I'm talking about when I'm not transmitting, just sitting here right
Oh.
now.
Oh, well, that's not ALC then. It's probably S meter or something.
Well, the little bar says ALC next to it, and there's a red line that goes about halfway across it.
Yeah, but
And that's when I'm not transmitting.
When you're not
When I
transmitting.
do
LT is not
transmit,
being
nothing
used.
changes. Huh.
Say that again.
When I do transmit, nothing changes. I
The
mean,
little red thing halfway over doesn't change?
no, it just stays there and nothing pops up.
Okay, well, that's not.
And I was telling them earlier, Ken, when I transmit, I'm not seeing my SWR meter move at all. I mean, the needles don't even bobble. When I do a tune from the radio, SWR meters pop, they wiggle and tuner tunes. And
Yeah. Well,
But,
that's because when you do a tune, it's like keying the transmitter in CW mode.
yep.
Whenever you're transmitting with, well, when you transmit with audio, does your with a microphone, does your SWR meter move then? And does your
Test. No.
do that a little harder, talk into it a little more,
Let me
see if it wiggles. You may not be driving it hard enough, but I can't imagine that.
test 1, 2, 3. No, not a wiggle on the I guess I should.
Not a
KI5
wiggle,
is saying.
no wiggle on the output power meter or nothing.
Nope.
You
How
didn't,
you know you're putting out power then?
Well, I don't. I mean, when I tune, when I hit the tuner button, my SWR meter jumps. But when I hit the transmit button,
Well, when you hit the tune button on WSJTX, it moves, don't it?
nope.
is it on sideband?
I'm on USB D.
Oh, yeah, that's what you need to be.
Digital mode. Well,
Is
whenever
your-
when you
Your
do-
your mic gain's not turned off, is it?
Test 1, 2, 3. KI5 is saying.
I did.
I just
told
went
you.
over the lower sideband and I'm getting something. Is gosh.
Told them about your new call sign.
Yeah.
I'm up to 65 DX on
15.
15.
Yeah. She's got 65 DX stations on 15 meters
Confirmed.
confirmed.
I still have another 17 that haven't. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Oh,
She's getting there.
Yep. I don't think I'm putting out anything. I think that tone is my radio telling me that something isn't right. I don't think it's feedback and
Have you worked any stations lately?
well, no, I've not been able to I can hear people, but I've not tonight, especially there've been all sorts of activity on 15 meters and I haven't been able to get anybody to answer me, even when I have, really, really good numbers on them,
Yeah. I think you broke it.
Yeah, I did. I don't know how.
Yeah, if when you hit the tune button on the WSJTX program, it should be like hitting the tune button on the radio. You should have near whatever the power is set at. And I never set my power at 100 watts. I'd back it off to 90 watts if I were you. But anyway. My K3 has a temperature meter on the final. I can monitor how hot my output transistors are getting. And if I can tell if I'm driving it too hard or transmitting too long.
Well, I've got a bar on here that shows temperature and it's showing it cool. And I don't know why. I just don't think I'm really even there's a transmit button on here. And when I press the transmit button.
You mean the transmit button on the radio?
On the radio. Yeah.
You have output power.
When I press that, I get not a wiggle on my SWR meter either.
Well, but when you hit the tune button, you do, right?
Yep.
Okay. If you're in single sideband mode and you press a transmit button, you're not going to see any output power because you don't get any output power on single sideband until you talk into the microphone.
Okay. So let
If
me
you put it
try
in
that.
CW and then press the transmit, you should see it. But
Okay, I'll try that. Actually,
you
that
said you said you were seeing it when you push the tune button on the radio.
Yeah, when I hit the tuner button and it tunes, my tuner clicks, and then I see.
I don't mean the tuner button. Isn't there a tune button on there? I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe the icons don't have the tune button. But anyway, if you're in CW mode and you key the transmitter, you should get full power out on your
what?
power meter, whatever your power set at. But anyway, didn't you say a while ago you was getting power out when you pushed the tune button on the WSJTX program?
No, I'm not getting anything.
Okay.
I mean, let's put it this way.
Is your transceiver keying the transmitter when you push the tune button?
Well, the TX light on the screen comes on when I hit tune.
Tune on the program?
Computer on the WSJT.
Okay.
When I hit tune, the TX light comes on, and the
Okay.
fan kick. I hear the fan kick on the radio,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't make. And it used to. I'm sure it used to make my SWR meter bounce, and it's
Yeah,
not.
good.
Does
Something.
your SWR meter have a power meter on it too, or is it just SWR?
Still power out?
No, it doesn't.
Just a single needle?
No, it's actually a dual needle.
Well,
Well,
if one needle
forward
is
reflective.
SWR, the other one should be power.
Yeah, it's there. Neither one of them are moving at all.
It sounds like you're not putting out any RF to me.
What? Yeah, I think I'm not getting anything past something here.
Well,
But I'm receiving good, so I'm guessing it's not the little pill in my switch. I wonder if I bypass the SWR meter. Well, then how will I know? Let's see.
well, you got a power meter on your transceiver.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, I'll tell you what to do. Oh, you don't have a dummy load, do you?
Yeah, I do. I haven't put the oil in it yet. I just
All
came
right.
in the other day.
All right, get that thing going and put that dummy load on there. So you don't have any antenna problem
Issues,
to worry
right.
about. No,
Right.
and do all your testing with the dummy load on there. That way you can key and do anything you want and you're not bothering anybody and you know it's not your antenna or your coax.
Right.
That eliminates a lot of stuff right there. But the fact that when you push the tune button on the WSJTX program and the transmitter light comes on the radio, that says you're keying it from the computer.
Right.
And
That's when it's making this tone, and there's nothing happening on the
Oh,
SWR.
really? Do you hear the tone all the time?
As long as that tune button's pressed on the.
Okay, I know what's wrong.
Okay.
The operator error.
Okay.
No, I think it's the.
We used to call that a loose nut behind the keyboard, but
I think I think it's in the your Windows 10 software is not outputting the audio out your USB cable to your transceiver.
okay.
So something has changed in there, and Windows 10 might have done an update or something like that.
But when he picks up the mic and keys the mic, he should see power coming through his power meter, right?
No, if you for
Well,
instance, if you do look at it this way, if you're in single sideband mode and you key your microphone and you don't talk into it, you
Right.
don't see any power meter doesn't move.
Right, but he was keying it and talking into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Test.
But I don't know if his microphone will even work whenever he's using it, transmitting from the computer. So he's putting audio into an input on the transceiver from the computer. And if it's switched to that input, the microphone might not be even working, might not be putting out anything. So one thing that you might do, Sam, is take the transceiver out of upper sideband D, upper sideband digital mode.
Right.
You
Which
just
I
put it
just
in-
did. I've just got it in plain upper sideband now.
All right, now talk into the microphone.
Hang on, let me see. Make sure I find a blank spot here. I don't know why I just got a whole lot of feedback.
I heard that.
I'm definitely getting power to the power meter on that.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what it is. Go back to your upper sideband D mode, and you're not getting the audio through the USB cable, and it's some setting in your radio or in your computer.
Okay, turn the volume back down, so I don't have to listen to that.
So there's nothing wrong with your transceiver. That's a relief.
Yeah. Well, that's what I kind of thought, because like say when I tune up, like, it jumps the power, but I'm not doing it, getting it from here.
And I had to watch a YouTube to figure out how to set mine up. Of course, I already forgot that.
Yeah. Well, it's just
Guys,
like
I'm
everything
gonna-
else. There's
I'm gonna sign off for tonight. It's been a good time, and see everybody next week, I hope.
Oh, okay, Bill. Have a good
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get off here too and go
Yeah.
back through and reset this whole thing up and see if I can fix it.
Yeah, I think that's your problem. It's just,
Ken, I'm glad you're alive and well. The other Ken isn't anywhere either. I didn't see him at the Ken Sandburn. I didn't
Yeah.
see him down at the fire station or it looks like I don't see him I don't think I see him anywhere.
I don't know, they're all far away from the camera tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam, did you ever change your AGC to fast?
No, I haven't found it again. I saw it earlier. Now I can't remember where I found it. Let's see. Gosh, too many menus.
Anyway, I think you're,
If you've got a clue which menu to find out, I might have to Google which menu to look for it in. But is it under?
I wouldn't even worry about it now. I'd get the other part working.
It's just like, a couple weeks ago, somehow I got a notch filter turned on,
I remember that.
and once I knew it, and I have no idea how that got turned on. I mean, I don't go changing things on these. I don't go changing things on these menus.
I haven't had mine on for a while, and I'm gonna try to maybe make a few contacts on this VHF thing.
Oh, there's Mark Klein.
We're in trouble now. And so I'm gonna have to turn mine on tomorrow and see if everything works and switch it over to I guess I'll set it up for 2 meters.
Oh,
And set my K3 up for 6 meters.
yeah, it's Sam, it's the function button.
Okay. So I go to, gosh, where is it? Set and function.
No, it's actually the button, the big button at the at the very bottom of the radio. It's actually a solid
Oh, the
button,
function
not
button.
touchscreen.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, AGC. Now it's on fast.
Okay,
Same where
check.
the notch.
Hold your finger on it so that it brings up what the actual speed is.
Okay, it's 0.3 seconds is what fast is showing.
Okay, that's good for fast. You're going to notice a big difference on how you can listen to when you unkey your mic, how
Okay.
quickly that you can hear somebody transmitting back to you.
Yeah, it recovers faster.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I keep mine most of the time.
Well, guys, I'm going to get off of here and play with some of
Okay.
these other.
I'll go to Carl, Sam, see you guys.
Appreciate
next time.
everything. And
I'll try to set my alarm next time so I won't be late.
all righty. Well, we just worry about you, Ken. You know,
See
you're
you
not
later.
20. You're not 23 anymore, even though you
No,
acted.
I'm
So.
83 though.